All right, we're live. First time, long time. Said I wanted to go live at 8:45 today for a little Sunday Hockey League preview. A little late on it, so we're going to be dropping this the morning of our playoffs, which start in about 4 hours from now. So not a big deal. NHL hooked this up with a little traveler mug, but I just put up the award winners for the season. So let's quickly start there. Starting out with our silver division. We started out with Brandon Ralston as the MVP. MVD was Shane Brennan and goaltender Lenny Valero. I call him Lenny Tendy. He got the MVG on that one, and especially because he drinks like 5 golden monkeys after every game, so I got to give him credit for that. In the bronze early, Ryan Dash took the MVP. MVD was Joe Weisbro. So that's his second MVD, I believe, which is good for him. He had one during the week as well. And then Jimmy Burkett. I mean, he didn't have the best goals against. He had the most wins. And he's by far, I think, probably the best goalie in that division. And then in our bronze late, we had Sean Lloyd. He collected another MVP award there. Brian Fisher with another NVD. They're going to have every color pure hockey shirt there is. And then I went a little outside the box on this one. And here's why. So goaltender, I gave the MVG to Ryan Moffat. And the reason I gave it to Ryan Moffat is because this kid took off hockey for 3 years. He's come back, and I think he was third in wins, third in goals against. So you got to give the kid some credit. And his team isn't a team that scores a lot, so he keeps his team in a lot of games. He's filled in during the week. He also played in the Ironman a couple weeks ago. So give Ryan Moffat some credit. Put some cloud on his name because he came from a 2-year hiatus and has jumped right into the bronze late division. So let's go over playoffs. We're going to share our screen here. And it worked. Perfect. So going to be going over just kind of the matchups here. So how the Sunday playoffs work is we split both bronze divisions, the early and late, into A's and B's. Now, it was a little bit interesting. The Inebriators were originally in the bronze early, had to drop out last minute, unfortunately. I know their captain, Chris, was pretty upset about that, but so that wound up being a 17 division, which makes things interesting. So what I did is the top 4, bottom 3, mostly because the top 4 were a lot closer than the bottom 4 would have been. You would have had one kind of team who was a little bit better than the rest of the pack. So went top 4, bottom 3, and this is going to get interesting because I kind of screwed something up here too. So in our top 4, we had the Thundercats, the Wolfpack, the Honeybees, and the Brickhouse Tigers. So that's going to be our matchups. Thundercats versus Wolfpack, Honeybees versus Brickhouse Tigers. Here's where I screwed up. In the bronze B, because there's a play-in, the Pylons actually have the bye. I must have written in the group chat that the Gobblegools had the bye. So what happened is Captain Joe Schweizer texted me. He's like, hey, Gobblegools have a bye this week. And I confirmed because that's what I wrote in the chat. I must have looked at the standings wrong. Probably the first time I've ever done something like that where I've looked at the standings wrong. Usually I have this all templated out, and I guess I just assumed the Gobblegools were ahead of the Pylons. And it's the only thing I could think of when I did it. So I sent the text wrong. So they didn't know they had a game this week because I told them they had a bye. And now a couple guys kind of looked at the schedule like, hey, we are on the schedule, which, you know, I did send out the link originally and just didn't catch it early enough. So we didn't realize it until like Friday. And we're trying to see if we can get the Gobblegools to play. But it actually was a really bad weekend for them as well after, you know, they kind of told everyone, or the captain told everyone that they were off. So that's a mistake on my end. But it looks like, you know, we will have an hour time slot today at the 150 mark where I think some of the guys from this Mount Laurel League that play on Sundays are going to come up and maybe skate on the rink. So it's going to be kind of like good in a way that it did have that gap. So in those first matchups in the bronze early, Thundercats have come on strong. They got little Paul Scarcelli. He's come onto the team, and he's kind of given them a little bit of offense. So that's what they've needed, I think, the entire time. They've always been a pretty good team with him. I think that adds that little touch of offense that they've been looking for. Wolfpack, on the other end, they've had one of the most epic comebacks in NERC history against the Honeybees. So you never can count them out. Jimmy Burkett, like I said, unbelievable goalie too. So you could put the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he can carry it. So the other matchup, we got Honeybees versus Brickhouse. Now, I have a feeling that this is just going to be a shit show of a game. I think this is going to be penalties galore. You have Ian Finley, who pisses everybody off. J-Mo and him don't really get along, but then they do get along off the rink. It's kind of a weird dynamic, but Brickhouse has been dominant in this division for years. So that's going to be a really tight one. I'm very excited for that one. Again, all these games will be live streamed on the YouTube channel. Now we hop into the Silver Division. Now, Silver started our playoffs last week. In the Silver Division, the Degenerates lost to the Stickheads, and my team, the Liberty, beat the Hounds. Now, both games kind of got away from the losing teams at the end, but were tight the entire first two periods. So in that DGen Stickheads game, DGens had a lead at one point, but then the Stickheads kind of just started piling it on and, kind of just fell apart for the DGens. And then on the other side of things with our Liberty and Hounds game, same thing. The Hounds actually, I think, scored first, and we were on our heels a little bit for the first 10 minutes of that game because they were buzzing around like little rats. And then eventually, once we kind of controlled the game, started slowing things down, then we kind of started taking away and running away from the pack. So both of those game twos are today. So if both teams that won the first games win, the championship will be next week. Now, if one of those series gets split today, what will happen is next week they'll have to play game 3 and the championship. So something to look out for here. Worth noting that the Stickheads did win the in-season cup, so they will get $200 off their next league fee, probably in the fall time. I don't think they're doing summer, which is going to throw a wrench into the kit for summer. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on to our Bronze Late. So our Bronze Late, differently from the Bronze Early, had 10 teams in it. So we have wild card games, play-ins, all sorts of shit. So in our first wild card game is going to be in our Bronze A wild card. It's going to be the Bumblehawks versus Trash Pandas. I think this game is going to be unbelievable. I just have a feeling that this game is going to be so back and forth. Trash Pandas have added a few players that, again, much like the Thundercats, they needed offense, and now they finally have it. So this guy, Matt, right here, I was trying to look up his name. He's provided a good amount of offense for them. So nice little pickup for those guys. And then on the other side of the Bumblehawks have picked up Jim Megger. So he's going to bring offense and defense. So he's a platinum player. So it's going to be a very, very good game. I'm very excited for that one. In our other semifinal, we have the Meal Boosters, who have been a little bit of a shock. I am not going to lie. Dave Rogers has been a huge pickup for them. They're actually not even the Meal Boosters anymore. They're Rocco's Modern Snipes, leaving them for Meal Boosters for the remainder of the season. And when they give me the jerseys back, then they'll go back to Rocco's Sundays. But Meal Boosters are going to be taking on Hippos. Hippos always a powerhouse in that bronze division. So, and I know they're taking off the summer, so they're probably going to empty the tank this weekend and next to try to get themselves another championship, especially when it's some pretty sick hats. These hats right here, nasty. Everyone's asking what the 25 is for. It's 2025. So that's why we did it that way. I've almost been running leagues for 25 years anyway. It just wasn't always at NERC, but nevertheless, we have the NERC Hockey 25 hats. Pretty nasty. So it's actually the NHL 75 anniversary. I had Ethan from Fusion make that 7-2, and that's how we got here. All right, we're live, so whatever it is goes. And then in our other semifinal matchup, it's going to be the winner of that 4:30 game. So that 4:30 game is going to have to play 2 today. I love that, though, because it keeps the guys around the rink. You get to watch the other semifinal game as they gear up for their second game of the day. So the gang is going to be the top dog in that Bronze A, facing off against that wild card winner. In our other matchups, we have the Dons, who've been an absolute shit show this season, just different guys every week. I mean, I don't even know what the fuck their roster is going to look like today. They're playing the Gladiators, so they're the first wild card game for the Bronze B. Late Again, I can't even comment on the game because I don't know what the hell is going to go on with it. And then the other one, we have the Law Dogs versus Lower Mayfair. Now, it's going to be an interesting one. You got a bunch of Philly guys, bunch of cops on both teams. So this one might get a little nasty as well at 8 o'clock, kind of prime time NHL Stanley Cup time. Law Dogs, they finally got away from the Hippos, so I'll tell you that for free. Law Dogs also have a filling goalie today, Pat Heck, which is going to be a nice pickup for them because he's a very solid goaltender. And then the winner of that Bronze B wild card game between the Dons and the Gladiators would take on the Stranglers, and we were talking about Ryan Moffat earlier. So though he wasn't in that top bracket, he was, kind of right in the middle of the pack with his team. And they got the first seed in that Bronze B division. So I haven't seen a ton of the Bronze late games. For a while, I had a new job. I was getting up at 5 a.m. So doing that Bronze late was a little bit difficult for me, but it's going to be interested to see some of those teams tonight. I'm going through and just kind of touching up some things here with the rosters because I just know there's some stakes and things like that because my scorekeepers are out to lunch and there's nothing we can do to get these scorekeepers on the same page. Hell, I can't even get my referee-in-chief and scorekeeper-in-chief or assistant director on the same page. I got to remind these guys. Well, I got to remind one of them every week to do a schedule, and the other guy tells me he looks at it, but he doesn't look at it. So, nevertheless, that's pretty much it. That's the quick little playoff breakdown for the Sunday Hockey League playoffs. Again, just a quick little snapshot of the standings here. Wolfpack finished first, Brickhouse in second, Honeybees in third, Thundercats in fourth, Pylons in fifth. This is where I made the screw up. And it wasn't even close, like 13 points versus 8 points. I don't know how I made that mistake because this is obviously a playing game. They should get the bye. I don't know what I was doing there. In our Bronze late, we have the Gang with a 2-point lead, just one more win. The Meal Boosters actually finishing over the Hippos, which was a little bit of a surprise as well. But you can look at the Hippos goal differential, a little bit better there than the Meal Boosters. Trash Pandas finishing fourth. I think it's maybe the first time they finished in that top half of this division. Bubble Hawks right on the cusp there as well. And I think a lot of that's, then they're right at an even goal differential, which is very rare to see. But which is even more interesting is you got the 6th place Stranglers. So again, looks like they just had one more loss because they had an OT loss. So they didn't get that point, which would have put them at 16. And unfortunately, they wound up in that. Well, maybe fortunately for them in that bottom half. Lower Mayfair going to be taking on the good old Law Dogs here. So pretty close in points there as well. Record's pretty even. And then Gladiators and Don. So as you can see, like as you break this down from, I guess we can't highlight just the bottom half, but there we go. Nope, not going to work. So if you look at it just the bottom half down, I mean, Strangler's kind of maybe the outlier a little bit in here. Maybe could have been the top 6, bottom 4, but even so, like the Stranglers, they're not crushing teams, right? A plus 11 over a 10-game season is, they're beating teams by a goal, maybe 2 a game. So it's not really that huge of a differential there. So, it's going to be pretty interesting, honestly, this playoff for Bronze League because I haven't seen a lot of it. And then as we get into the Silver, like I said, D-Gen just having a rough season with only 3 wins. I think most of those came against the Hounds. And then the Hounds beat Stickheads. Hounds beat us once. So, it's been kind of a mixed bag with the Silver division. But I think what's kind of happening is between the Stickheads and our team, we've added some beef to the team where these guys have added players. They haven't shown up. Like the D-Gens have added Stan Tilton. He's shown up every week. Joe Brennan, he's too busy in Wildhood, right? They got Tim Detra back for playoffs after his injury. So that's a huge pickup for them. But not having some of these guys show up every week is kind of been hurtful to them, honestly. So, see how that goes today. I mean, that could be a very, very interesting game. I know the Stickheads are a little bit light, so we'll see how that goes. Pat Foy, this dude is out to lunch sometimes. Pat Foy told me that they had multiple ringers or multiple fill-ins for the D-Gens last week. They had one guy who didn't play any games, and that was Detcher because he had a broken wrist. He just got cleared to play like a week ago. So he played. Obviously, he's been on their team for years. And he was hurt, and now he's not. So I don't know what the multiple players was. They've had Stan Tilton the entire year. They've had Joe Brennan the entire year. They've had J-Mo the entire year. So Pat Foy, he's out to lunch and on vacation all at the same time, playing with a half deck of cards. So And then the Hounds, they added Connor Kenny. He's been injured. He is a good player. He's very solid. But I think the Hounds needed to add someone that is not just solid. They needed to add someone that can control the play a little bit. You got Kenny Weber leading the team. He's a very good offensive player. He's leading the team in points. But he's not a guy who's going to push the pace. He's a guy that when you get the puck in his hands in the right area, he's scoring like 80% of the time here. Same thing with a guy like Pat. They're scorers, right? But they need someone who can just control the play, really not push the pace too much, that can bring them back, dial it back, and say, hey, boys, like, we can't run and gun. We can't swarm right now. We need to just control the pace. So that's it for this playoff preview. This will be up on our YouTube page, and then the live stream will be up around probably 12:15 today for the entire playoff series.